Hello and welcome to Faith Matters. On this show, we take a spiritual perspective on Merseyside life, and our guest in the studio is Sue Torpy from the Big Help Project. And today we're broadly looking at the poverty gap and your work with the Big Help Project to alleviate that and try and narrow that gap. So tell us, what is the Big Help Project and where does the name come from?
The Big Help Project is a Knowsley-based charity. It was started by a man called Barry Cooper in Kirby 4 years ago next week, actually. And it started off as the Knowsley Food Bank. And gradually he became to realise that just giving people food wasn't quite enough. And we then started to help people with debt. So we have an organisation called Jubilee Debt Advice. And then we decided we needed to help people find work because that's one way out of poverty. So we helped them with that. That's called the Next Steps programme. And then we thought, what about all these, he heard something on the radio about some young, vulnerable mums who needed help. So we linked up with other people to set up Baby Basics. So we help new mums who are vulnerable. And then we realised that in this world where computers are everything, and where through new benefits we can't access new benefits unless we can go online and have money paid into a bank account. We've set up a new project called Get Connected, which helps people with finding work, out of debt, and getting digitally and financially included so we can help them open bank accounts. And then we decided that wasn't quite enough, so we've opened the first of many, we hope, charity shops, and there's one in Highton Village now.
And you're going to open some more?
We are indeed. We're going to open a variety, offering many different things. So looking at the sale of white goods and the sale of furniture, as well as traditional community charity shops.
So I've been out to your headquarters.
Yep.
And you're on an industrial estate in Kirby, is that
Yep,
right?
that's
Trying to
right,
remember how I got there.
Yeah.
And not my end of the city, really.
No.
But so you're out there. It's a big plant you got there, isn't it?
It's grown since you were with us, actually.
Well,
We've moved.
Even more space.
We've moved. We now have 24 members of staff, where we used to when I started 2 years ago, there was about 6 of us, and now there's 24. So there's 6 offices, big warehouse, 2 warehouses because we have Baby Basics as well, and everything we need for the shop. So it's a much bigger operation. Again, we keep growing. We're very blessed with keeping growing to meet the needs that as we see them develop.
And how are you funded?
Oh, huge different ways. Through Big Lottery, through organisations such as the Morgan Foundation, John Moore's Trust, smaller organisations giving us money. Very, very close partnership with Knowsley Council, who give us some funding, and we work with them on their emergency support scheme. So when people are in need and they apply to the emergency support scheme, they can get food, gas and electric, and we're the ones that supply the food through the food bank. So there's a whole myriad of ways we're funded, and through the generosity of individuals.
So you are a faith-based, church-based organisation.
We are.
How does that work?
Where everything we do, we try to make everything we do God-centred. So we start each week with a time of shared breakfast and prayer and a reading from the Bible, and we spend time thinking about that. Whenever we're doing anything, it may seem like the old cliche of what would Jesus do, but really, what are we doing here? Is this the right way of doing things? Is this a moral way, a way that would please Jesus, would please God? Because if it doesn't, then we have to look at that again and see, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? We have times in the middle of the week, if there was something wrong, we would have a time of prayer without thinking about it. And we have, I think it's really good, and it's a good news bell. So when something good happens, we ring a bell.
You ring a bell?
We ring a bell, everyone comes out, we learn what the good news is. It was rung yesterday, someone has had their water debt of £700 written off because we wrote to them and begged them to write it off, and they did. So we rang the bell and we all gave thanks for the fact that that's happened and that's changed that person's life.
That's great.
So we try and keep God at the focus of everything we do.
Okay, but not everybody who works with you is a Christian. Is
No,
that,
no, they're not.
That's not a requirement.
It's not a requirement. It's a requirement that they agree with our ethos, which is, you know, to help people in their need, regardless of their belief, whether they have a belief or not, their ethnicity, their sexuality, it really doesn't matter. If they are a person in need and we can help them, we will help them. And as long as people embrace that, they're very welcome to come and join us. And that goes for our volunteers as well.
So who came up with the name Big Help?
I don't know. I guess it was Barry Cooper, but I don't know why he came up with that. It started out, I think, as Knowsley Food Bank. As I said, on the 30th of September, it's 4 years old. But somehow it very quickly became the Big Help project.
OK, so your background, what's your background? How do you get to be involved in this?
I was a member of St Mary's Church in Halewood and an active Christian. And in St Mary's, we were looking for some ways of reaching out to our community. And one of the things we did was open a community coffee shop on a Saturday. And a few weeks later, Barry Cooper arrived on Sunday morning to talk to us about the possibility of opening a food bank in Halewood. And I said the only time we could do it is a Saturday morning when we have our coffee shop. And he looked at the list and said, that's the only morning we haven't got a food bank anywhere, apart from a Sunday. So, you know, I believe very much it was guided by God, and Barry came. We opened the food bank on the following January, which is 3 years ago now. And I coordinated it from the church point of view. I was working as a teacher then. And I became very unhappy as a teacher and felt really needed to change. And through prayer with some people from St Mary's Church, we prayed a great deal about it. And I was very brave and handed it to God and said, I can't do this anymore, you'll have to sort it out. And about 3 weeks later, the job as the manager of Knowsley Food Bank was advertised.
And you've been there ever
and
since?
I went for it, yeah. And I'm very happy there, yeah, very happy.
That's great, OK. And your motivation, tell us a bit more about your motivation.
It's about, I think for all of us, it's about justice. It's about seeing people often being treated badly, about a system that doesn't always treat people well, about people that don't treat themselves well sometimes because they're unable to. A whole range of things come together. And for some people, I think they live on a very fine financial knife edge. And when something goes wrong, they fall off. And I think we all feel we can do something to help those people. And we're called by God to do that, aren't we? You know, yeah. Feed my people. I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me a drink.
Matthew 25.
Matthew 25. And in the Message version, it actually says, and when you did that to those that are ignored and overlooked, that was me.
You're doing it. So Jesus says, when you do these things, when you feed the hungry, when you visit the prisoner, when you give clothes to those who are unclothed, yeah. Then you're doing it to him.
To him, and that's where I think in the Message it says that was me, not that's in my name. Actually, that is me standing there, and I think that sort of motivation. And we have something from Proverbs 31. I have above my desk in the office, and it says, "Speak out for justice, stand up for the poor and the destitute." So I feel we're called as Christians to stand up for the poor and the destitute, and to help in whatever way we can to change their lives. So we can give them food and we can help them get out of debt. £1.3 million worth of debt we've dealt with in 4 years. That's huge. It's life-changing, isn't it? And we've done that for people because we believe that that's the right thing to do for those people who are drowning in debt and don't know where to turn, and people don't listen to them, and there appears to be a system that doesn't want to help them, and we're there to help them through that.
Well, I mean, Liverpool's a city which has always done this stuff, hasn't it, really? Yeah. Both in the secular sphere and also in the religious sphere, and the two spheres are kind of interlocked in a way, aren't they? In a way, in my experience, in a way that isn't true for a lot of other cities. You know, the church is part of the fabric of the city. Yeah. And there's something. Do you think there's something of the kind of legacy of David Shepherd in this?
I think there is. I mean, I think when I was at university, and reading Faith in the City. And you can't, and the stuff he did about the poor, wrote about the poor, you can't help but think, yes, we have to do something. And I think you're right, my dad was very anti-church, but a massive socialist who worked very hard to help the poor. And I guess instilled in all of us, in my family, that you get out and you help people. And that was a very secular socialist approach. Didn't matter, it still was out there helping. I look at it from a slightly different angle, but I'm still out there helping. So I think you're right. I think in Liverpool there is that real history of having to help ourselves, perhaps at times because they don't actually queue up to help us, so we help ourselves.
Yeah. Okay, we're coming to our commercial break now. When we come back, we've got a film that Holly has made for us. She came out to the Big Help and filmed. So we're going to watch the film when we come back, and then we'll come back and ask you a couple more questions.
That's fine.
So it's great, Sue, to have you with us. Do join us after the break, where we'll have the short film and then some more questions of Sue about the Big Help project.
Hi, I'm Sue Torpy and I'm the project coordinator here at the Big Help Project. The Big Help Project is a Knowsley-based charity, and it's an umbrella organisation under which we have several different smaller projects. The main heart of our project is Knowsley Food Bank. You can see here surrounded by the food. Last year we fed more than 8,000 people in Knowsley. We work closely with Knowsley Council on their emergency support scheme, and we offer help and support to anybody in Knowsley who is in food crisis. What we recognise is that giving people food is not enough, and we're part of the Trussell Trust, and the Trussell Trust have a project called More Than Food, and we are certainly committed to more than food here at the Big Help. So people can come to us when they're in food crisis and we give them food. We can also help them if they are in debt. We have a project called Jubilee Debt Advice, and we offer bespoke one-to-one debt advice to anybody who needs it. We can offer them any sort of debt advice, from helping them write to creditors up to and including bankruptcy, and we help them find a way out of their situation. One of the ways we believe we can help people the most is by getting them into work, because not all, but a lot of people that come to us are not in work. So we have a project called Next Steps, which helps people find jobs or training and prepares them for the work world. We help them with their CVs, we help them with job applications, we help them with interview techniques. We can take them along, go with them and support them at an interview if necessary, or we can find them training that will help them be prepared for the world of work. We do all this because we have a real belief that people are individuals, they are cherished, they are loved, and as a Christian organisation we believe that it is our job, we're called by Jesus, to help those that are less fortunate than us, that need some help. It actually says, you can look at the Bible, in Matthew it says, I was hungry and you fed me, I was naked and you clothed me. And in doing that, we're doing what Jesus tells us to do. And so we find it as a very important, it's at the core of what we do is our faith and our belief as a Christian charity that we are called by Christ to help those that are less fortunate than us. And we can do that in so many ways. We've recently opened a shop where we can help people get decent clothing, and we're eventually going to help them in more ways in a shop. We can also help them get online, do their job searches, become more computer savvy, become financially included, because so many people are financially excluded. And all of this is done under the Christian ethos of helping those, the poor and the destitute, as it says in the Bible, those that are less fortunate than us. But in God's eyes, they're human beings, they're equal, and we respect them and treat them with dignity and love, just as God treats everyone that way. Obviously, projects like ours couldn't run without volunteers. And at the Big Help, we have something like over 100 volunteers working with us at different times throughout the weeks. and we simply couldn't survive without them. But more importantly as well, we can offer people who come to us for help and support, one of their ways out of the crisis they're in is to become ready for work, and enabling them to do that means that they can come and volunteer for us. We have large companies offering some of their staff to come and help us, as well as many, many committed individuals. And what's really good is that we work very closely with churches who support us immensely through everything we do, and with local schools who again support so much of what we do. That it then becomes a real community event, reaching out to all parts of Knowsley and all the different communities, and involving so many different people in what we do, whether it's that they donate food, which we desperately need. We need 50 tonnes a year of food, and it's just people in our community that donate that food. It's working with businesses, it's working with schools and churches and community groups, and everybody trying to be together to help support the most needy in our community.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that film of the Big Help Project. Sue, the poverty gap, we're talking about the poverty gap. That's an old term, really. I remember it from A-level sociology, and believe me, that was a long time ago. And, you know, maybe it's as old as, it goes back to when time began, and Jesus said, the poor you will always have with you. He said, you know, obviously we talked in the first half, he said, take care of the poor. That was a priority for him. But he said, the poor you will always have with you. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, sadly, I think I do. I think there will always be people who have more than other people. I think the issue is how much little do some people have, and how much do other people have. And I think I see the gap in that widening considerably.
And do you think it's widened over the last 5 years or so?
Yes,
in
I
your
do.
experience? I mean, obviously you've been doing this job how many years?
I've been involved with the food bank for 3.5 years, and I've been doing this job for 2 years.
And do you think it's widened in that?
Yeah, I do. And before that, I was teaching in the city schools, so I think I've seen poverty in those sort of situations. And I do. I think those that are very well off are increasingly very, very comfortably off.
So they're getting wealthier.
They're getting wealthier, and even those that are not I'm not talking about the mega rich who are so out of our sphere. Yeah. You can almost be tempted to forget they exist, but they don't. They're there, and they take up a huge amount of the money that is in this country. And the kind of those that are comfortably off are more comfortable now, because the price of food hasn't gone up as much as people think it has.
Yeah.
And yet the benefits that people get who aren't working, or the very low wages, are then proportionally lower. So they are struggling to make ends meet with an increase in fuel prices, which has gone up beyond all recognition, and just the rent and you know, the fact if you're an older couple or a middle-aged couple living in a council house, in a housing association house, and you're on benefits and your children grow up and leave home, you have to pay £14 a week for each bedroom that's in your house that you're not using, rather than, or move to a smaller place. Yeah. And there aren't any smaller places because everybody's got to move. So that for them, living has become much more expensive. And that's a real problem, and that's creating a bigger gap, I believe. And I do believe there are policies now that are designed to do that. Yeah. I do. I think they're designed to make that gap bigger. Somebody, I was reading some of Owen Jones the other week. You know, he talks about this control issue, and I do think it's right. I think poverty's always been used as a form of control, but I think it's more obvious now.
A form of social control.
A form of social control, and I think it's far more obvious for a lot of reasons. Some being perhaps there is not a viable opposition to people who are in power. Okay,
coming to that, I went to the Adelphi to see Jeremy Corbyn speak. Were you there?
No.
It was interesting. There were 1,000+
I believe so.
people there. One of the things he said, actually, is one of his opening statements, which relates to what you've just said, is there are 5 families in this country, and not including the royal family, whose combined net worth is the same as the bottom 20% of the country, which kind of, if that's true, and I've got no reason to believe that's not true, he's pretty well researched in his figures that he gives. I mean, that's shocking. Do you think that his recent election to the Labour Party, to the Labour leader of the Labour Party, do you think he can make a difference? And do you think people will give him a chance?
I'm not sure people are going to give him. I'm not sure the media are going to give him. Well, they're not going to give him a chance, are they? I think his style of politics is far more what I would see good for the poorer people, for those that are the vulnerable and the overlooked, as it says. I think his style of politics is far more to say we have to build those people up. Rather than build up those wealthy people. Yeah. And, the fact that there's 5 families is just terrifying, is what I think it is.
OK, and do you think the church should be more radical?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, I do. I think we have a duty to speak out. We are told, feed my people, speak out. And I think the church has a massive place to speak out on these issues of sanctions, which fines someone for missing an appointment. If you or I missed an appointment in our work, we wouldn't get stopped a week's wages. No. But if you miss an appointment with your advisor...
We've run out of time, Sue.
Oh!
We have to stop now. I've raised some contentious issues. If you want to get back to us on those issues, maybe even have a say yourself, contact me at faithmatters@baytvliverpool.com. And join us next time for Faith Matters. Bye now.